Did you know that some seeds sitting in your kitchen right now might not be the best choice as we get older? I'm talking about seeds that our grandmothers knew to prepare differently, or sometimes avoid altogether. After 40 years of helping seniors with their nutrition, I've seen how the wrong seeds can cause unexpected problems. But here's what might surprise you. It's not always the seeds themselves, but how we eat them today compared to how our ancestors did. I've spent decades working with people over 60 to help them feel their best through simple food choices. Today, we're going back to the wisdom our grandparents had about seeds, which ones need special attention as we age, and why the way we eat them now is so different from the old days. You'll learn about 5 common seeds that require a bit more thought when you're over 60, and I'll share the traditional ways to make them work better for your body. Let me tell you something that might surprise you. Our bodies change as we age, and foods that were perfectly fine when we were 30 can sometimes cause issues when we're 70. But here's the thing. Our grandparents knew this. They had ways of preparing foods, especially seeds, that made them easier to digest and better for older bodies. The problem today is that we've lost much of this traditional knowledge. We eat seeds the same way at 70 as we did at 20, without considering how our digestive systems have changed. We buy them processed, pre-packaged, and often eat them in ways that would have puzzled our great-grandmothers. I see this in my practice all the time. Seniors come to me with digestive issues, joint pain, or energy problems. And when we look at their diet, we often find they're eating certain seeds in ways that just don't work well for their changing bodies. The good news is that most of these problems have simple solutions. Solutions our ancestors knew by heart. Sunflower seeds. Let's start with sunflower seeds. Now, I'm not saying sunflower seeds are bad. They're packed with vitamin E and healthy fats. But here's what I've learned from years of working with seniors. The way most people eat sunflower seeds today can cause real problems as we age. First, most store-bought sunflower seeds are loaded with salt. When I was growing up in the 1960s, my grandmother would harvest sunflower seeds from her garden and barely salt them at all. She'd dry them slowly in the sun, sometimes for days. Today's commercial sunflower seeds can have 10 times more salt than what she used to make. Why does this matter more as we get older? Because our kidneys don't process sodium as efficiently after 60. What used to be a harmless snack can now contribute to high blood pressure and water retention. I've had patients who couldn't figure out why their ankles were swelling until we discovered they were eating salted sunflower seeds every afternoon while watching television. But here's the real issue with sunflower seeds that most people don't know about. They're incredibly high in omega-6 fatty acids. Now, we need some omega-6, but the problem is that most of us are getting way too much compared to omega-3. This imbalance can increase inflammation in the body, which is especially problematic for seniors who already deal with more inflammation as part of aging. My grandmother's generation ate sunflower seeds maybe once a week, as a special treat. Today, people munch on them daily without thinking. That's a huge difference in how much omega-6 we're consuming. The shells present another problem that's bigger for seniors. As we age, our digestive systems become more sensitive. Those sharp shell fragments that we might have handled fine at 30 can cause irritation and even small tears in the digestive tract at 70. I've seen cases where people developed chronic stomach discomfort that we traced back to eating sunflower seeds with bits of shell. Here's how to handle sunflower seeds the traditional way. Buy them raw and unsalted. Soak them overnight in water with a pinch of sea salt. This makes them easier to digest, just like our great-grandmothers did with most seeds and nuts. Dry them slowly in a low oven, around 200 degrees, for several hours. Eat them in small portions, maybe a small handful twice a week, not daily. Pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin seeds are interesting because they're actually very nutritious, full of magnesium, zinc, and healthy fats. Our ancestors ate them regularly, especially in the fall when pumpkins were harvested. But again, the way we eat them now versus then makes all the difference. The biggest problem I see with pumpkin seeds and seniors is that most people buy them already roasted and heavily salted. These commercial versions are often roasted at very high temperatures, which damages some of the beneficial oils and creates compounds that can be inflammatory. But there's another issue that's specific to seniors. Pumpkin seeds are very high in fiber and can be quite hard to digest when eaten in large quantities. As we age, our digestive enzymes aren't as strong as they used to be. What our 30-year-old stomachs could handle easily can cause bloating, gas, and discomfort at 60 plus. I remember my great-aunt Sarah, who lived to be 96. She always saved pumpkin seeds when she made pumpkin pie, but she had a very specific way of preparing them. First, she'd soak them in salt water overnight. Then she'd dry them completely before roasting them slowly at a low temperature. She'd add just a tiny bit of salt and maybe some herbs from her garden. Most importantly, she never ate more than a small handful at a time. She told me that eating too many at once would give her what she called a heavy stomach. Now I understand she was talking about the digestive burden of too much fiber and fat at once. There's also something called phytic acid in pumpkin seeds. This compound can bind to minerals in your digestive system and prevent you from absorbing them properly. For seniors who already have a harder time absorbing nutrients, this can be a real problem. The soaking process that traditional cooks used helps reduce phytic acid significantly. Here's the traditional approach. When you carve pumpkins or cook fresh pumpkin, save the seeds. Rinse them well and soak them in salt water for 8 to 10 hours. This softens them and begins breaking down compounds that are hard to digest. Then dry them completely and roast them slowly at 250 degrees until they're crispy. Eat them in small amounts, maybe a quarter cup at most in one sitting. Chia seeds. Now, chia seeds are newer to most of our diets. They weren't something our grandmothers typically ate, at least not in most parts of America and Europe. But they've become very popular in recent years because they're packed with omega-3 fatty acids and fiber. The problem is that many seniors jump into eating chia seeds without understanding how powerful they are. These tiny seeds can absorb up to 10 times their weight in water. When they hit your stomach, they expand significantly. For older digestive systems that move food through more slowly, this can cause serious problems. I've had several patients end up in the emergency room because they ate dry chia seeds and didn't drink enough water. The seeds formed a gel-like mass in their stomachs that caused severe pain and blockage. This is especially dangerous for seniors who might already have slower digestion or take medications that affect how quickly food moves through their system. There's also the fiber issue. Chia seeds are incredibly high in fiber, much higher than most foods our bodies are used to processing. If you suddenly start eating a tablespoon of chia seeds daily when you've been eating a low-fiber diet, you're going to have digestive distress. Bloating, gas, cramping, and changes in bowel movements are all common. But chia seeds can be beneficial when used correctly. The key is understanding how indigenous peoples, who did eat these seeds traditionally, prepared them. They never ate them dry. Always with liquid, and often soaked first. The traditional way, which I now recommend to my patients, is to soak chia seeds in water or another liquid for at least 20 minutes before eating them. This lets them expand outside your body instead of inside it. Start with just 1 teaspoon of seeds, not a tablespoon. Mix them into smoothies, yogurt, or oatmeal where they have plenty of liquid to work with. Also, increase your intake very slowly. Start with a teaspoon every other day for a week, then daily for a week. Then you can gradually increase if your body handles it well. And always drink extra water when you eat chia seeds. Flax seeds. Flax seeds have been around much longer than chia seeds. They were grown in ancient Egypt and were a common crop in many parts of Europe and North America. My own grandmother grew flax on her farm in Minnesota, though they used it mainly for making linen, not for eating. The nutritional benefits of flax seeds are real. They're high in omega-3 fatty acids and lignans, which can be especially beneficial for women after menopause. But there are some specific concerns for seniors that many people don't know about. First, whole flax seeds are very hard for the human digestive system to break down. They're so small and have such a tough outer coating that they often pass through your system completely unchanged. You get very little nutritional benefit from whole flax seeds. Our ancestors knew this and almost always ground them fresh before use. But here's where it gets tricky for seniors. Ground flax seeds go rancid very quickly because grinding exposes the oils to air and light. Rancid oils are inflammatory and can actually be harmful rather than helpful. Many people buy pre-ground flax seeds at the store, but these have often been sitting around for weeks or months, and the beneficial oils have turned rancid. There's also a compound in flax seeds called cyanogenic glycosides. In small amounts, this isn't a problem for most people. But if you're eating large quantities of flax seeds daily, which some people do, thinking more is better, these compounds can interfere with iodine absorption and potentially affect thyroid function. This is especially concerning for seniors who already have higher rates of thyroid problems. I also worry about flax seeds for seniors who take blood-thinning medications. Flax seeds can have mild blood-thinning effects themselves, and the combination could be problematic. Always check with your doctor if you're on any medications before adding flax seeds to your diet regularly. The traditional approach that works best: buy whole flax seeds and store them in your refrigerator or freezer. Grind only small amounts at a time, maybe a week's worth, using a coffee grinder dedicated just for seeds and spices. Store the ground flax in the refrigerator and use it within a week. Start with just half a teaspoon per day, mixed into foods like oatmeal or yogurt. Don't eat them dry, and don't eat large quantities. A teaspoon to a tablespoon per day is plenty for most seniors. Sesame seeds. Sesame seeds have been cultivated for over 3,500 years and were a staple in many traditional diets around the world. They're full of healthy fats, protein, and minerals like calcium and magnesium. But there are some specific considerations for seniors that are important to understand. The first issue is that sesame seeds are one of the most common food allergens, and food allergies can actually develop or worsen as we age. I've seen patients who ate sesame seeds for decades without problems suddenly develop reactions in their 60s or 70s. The reactions can range from mild digestive upset to more serious allergic responses. Sesame seeds are also very high in oxalates. Oxalates are compounds that can bind with calcium and form kidney stones. For seniors, who already have a higher risk of kidney stones due to changes in kidney function and often decreased water intake, eating large amounts of high oxalate foods can be problematic. But here's something most people don't know. The way we eat sesame seeds now is very different from how they were traditionally consumed. In Middle Eastern and Asian cuisines, sesame seeds were almost always toasted before eating and often ground into paste like tahini. The toasting process changes the seed's structure and makes it much easier to digest. Raw sesame seeds are quite hard for the digestive system to break down. Like flax seeds, they often pass through unchanged if you eat them whole and raw. You're not getting much nutritional benefit, and you might be putting stress on your digestive system for no good reason. Traditional Middle Eastern cooks also knew to balance sesame seeds with other foods. They weren't eaten as snacks by themselves, but incorporated into dishes with vegetables, grains, and other ingredients that helped with digestion and provided nutritional balance. The calcium content in sesame seeds is often touted as a benefit, and it is substantial. But here's what many people don't realize. The calcium in sesame seeds isn't as easily absorbed by the body as calcium from dairy products or leafy greens. For seniors who are concerned about bone health, relying on sesame seeds as a primary calcium source might not be the best strategy. Here's the traditional approach that I recommend. Toast sesame seeds lightly in a dry pan before using them. This makes them more digestible and brings out their nutty flavor. Use them as a garnish or flavoring rather than eating large quantities plain. If you're making tahini at home, which is a great way to use sesame seeds, start with small amounts, maybe a teaspoon or two at first. Be aware of your total oxalate intake if you have a history of kidney stones. And if you're taking calcium supplements, don't eat large amounts of sesame seeds at the same time, as they can interfere with calcium absorption. Here's what I want you to understand. None of these seeds are inherently bad. Our ancestors ate most of them regularly and lived long, healthy lives. The difference is in how they prepared them and how much they ate. Traditional food wisdom developed over thousands of years of trial and error. Our great-grandmothers knew that some foods needed special preparation to be digestible. They knew that just because something was healthy didn't mean you should eat unlimited quantities of it. They understood that our bodies change as we age, and our diets should change too. The biggest mistake I see seniors making today is thinking that if a little of something is good, more must be better. But seeds are concentrated sources of nutrients, fats, and fiber. A little goes a long way, especially as we get older and our digestion becomes less efficient. The second mistake is eating seeds the modern way instead of the traditional way. Pre-packaged, heavily processed, eaten in large quantities without any thought to preparation or balance. This approach can turn beneficial foods into sources of problems. So let's see what we've learned about these 5 seeds. Sunflower seeds need to be eaten in small quantities, preferably soaked and dried rather than heavily salted. Pumpkin seeds should be soaked overnight before roasting slowly and eaten in moderation. Chia seeds must always be soaked in liquid before consuming, and you should start with very small amounts. Flax seeds should be ground fresh and used quickly, not eaten whole or in large quantities. And sesame seeds are best when toasted and used as flavoring rather than eaten plain in large amounts. The key principles are simple. Prepare seeds the way our ancestors did. Start with small amounts. Pay attention to how your body responds. And remember that more isn't always better. These aren't dangerous foods that you need to avoid completely, but they do require a bit of thought and respect for traditional preparation methods. Most importantly, listen to your body. If a particular seed doesn't agree with you, don't force it. There are plenty of other nutritious foods out there. The goal is to feel good and stay healthy, not to check boxes on some superfood list. Remember, the wisdom of our grandmothers wasn't just old-fashioned thinking. It was based on generations of experience with food and health. When we combine that traditional knowledge with what we understand now about nutrition and aging, we can make choices that truly serve our bodies well. If this helped you think differently about seeds in your diet, subscribe for more traditional food wisdom that actually works for seniors.